$20,000 of my savings gone, my name erased from the programs, and I'd just overheard my boyfriend whispering something to the groom, my new brother-in-law. The elegant bathroom blurred through my tears as I gripped the marble counter, wedding planner binder clutched against my chest like armor. 6 months of work. Every favor called in. My bank account drained. And for what? To be invisible at best, a fool at worst. My sister appeared in the doorway, champagne flute in hand, her wedding gown shimmering under the crystal lights I'd selected myself. "Emily, sweetie," she smiled, voice dripping with false sympathy. "Jason says he saw you crying in here. I think you should leave early. You're making people uncomfortable." I straightened, tears evaporating in the sudden heat of rage. My trembling fingers flipped open the binder to where I'd stored her paperwork. With one deliberate motion, I crossed out her name from the deed to my condo that I'd stupidly put her on when she'd cried about needing a credit boost. Her eyes widened as she watched the pen slice through her future financial security. "What are you doing?" she hissed, glancing nervously at the approaching photographer, my only real ally in this room of vultures. "Exactly what I should have done years ago," I replied, my voice surprisingly steady. "I'm leaving. And you're going to remember this moment when your perfect wedding falls apart in about," I checked my watch, 20 minutes. The string quartet I'd hired began playing off-key, right on schedule. I'd canceled the final payment this morning. 8 months ago, when my sister Abby announced her engagement to the charming Boston surgeon Jason Werner, I was genuinely happy for her. Despite our competitive childhood and our mother's obvious preference for her, I loved my sister. When she tearfully asked me to plan her wedding, explaining they couldn't afford the kind of celebration she deserved, I didn't hesitate. "Of course I'll help," I'd said, mentally calculating how much of my savings I could contribute. That's what sisters do. As a professional wedding coordinator, I'd planned dozens of high-end Boston weddings, but this would be different. This would be personal. I'd prove to my family that I wasn't just the practical daughter, the one who worked while Abby pursued her dream of becoming an artist. I'd show them I could create something magical. My boyfriend Ryan seemed supportive, though he questioned my decision to cover so many expenses. "You're already giving her your professional services for free," he'd said, his handsome face concerned. "You don't need to bankroll the whole thing." But I was determined. It's an investment in our relationship. She's always been jealous of my career success. This will heal things between us. How naive I'd been. I threw myself into planning. I negotiated with my industry contacts, calling in every favor I'd earned over years in the business. I organized tastings, venue visits, and design consultations. When Abby complained about the flowers not matching her vision, I personally paid for upgrades. When she decided the original venue wasn't grand enough 3 months before the wedding, I somehow made the impossible happen, finding a cancellation at the historic Langham Hotel. Through it all, my mother hovered, critiquing my choices. "Abby deserves the absolute best, Emily. Can't you do better than this photographer?" "Mom, Jess is one of the top wedding photographers in New England. Her wait list is usually 2 years." "Well, if you say so," she sighed, making it clear she wasn't convinced. My relationship with Ryan suffered as I poured every waking hour into the wedding. We fought more frequently, always about the same thing: my family's expectations and my inability to set boundaries. But I dismissed his concerns as jealousy. I was too busy proving myself to listen. 2 weeks before the wedding, I discovered my checking account nearly emptied. The caterer had somehow double-charged me, but when I called to resolve it, they had no record of the second charge. The bank traced it to an ATM withdrawal with my card, the one I'd let Abby borrow to put down the deposit on her honeymoon suite. When confronted, she'd cried, "I'm so sorry, Em. Jason and I were short on the honeymoon payment, and I panicked. I was going to tell you after the wedding. We'll pay you back, I promise. I should have walked away then. Should have seen it for the red flag it was. Instead, I hugged her and said, "It's okay. Just don't do it again." After all, the wedding was almost here. Everything would be worth it when I saw the gratitude on their faces, when I finally earned my place in the family. The morning of the wedding arrived with perfect weather. I'd been up since 4 a.m., confirming details and solving last-minute crises. The ceremony was flawless. The string quartet playing the pieces I'd selected, the flower arrangements I'd designed casting a romantic glow, Abby looking radiant in the dress I'd helped her choose. As guests moved to the reception, my father approached. "You've done a great job, kiddo," he said, patting my shoulder. A compliment from him was rare, and I felt a rush of pride. "Thanks, Dad. I just want everything to be perfect for Abby. Don't worry about staying late tonight. Your mother and I can handle anything that comes up. You should enjoy yourself a little." The dismissal stung, but I nodded. "I'll be around until the end. It's my job to make sure everything goes smoothly." As the reception began, I circulated, checking details and directing staff. I was examining the place cards when I noticed something odd. The beautiful programs I designed had been replaced with different ones, simpler, less elegant, and missing something crucial: my name. The original programs had a small note, "Wedding coordinated with love by Emily Parsons." These had nothing. I picked one up, flipping through it. The florist was credited, the photographer, the band, even the baker. But I had vanished. Confused, I sought out my mother, finding her adjusting Abby's veil for photos. "Mom, what happened to the programs I ordered?" She barely glanced at me. "Oh, Abby thought they were a bit too busy. Jason's mother found someone to rush these simpler ones last week. Aren't they elegant? But they don't mention that I planned the wedding." She finally looked at me, her expression a mix of confusion and annoyance. "Well, everyone already knows you helped, Emily. No need to make it official and overshadow your sister's big day." Helped. As if I'd stuffed a few envelopes rather than poured my heart, soul, and bank account into this event. I retreated to the bathroom, fighting tears. 6 months of work, $20,000 spent, and they couldn't even acknowledge me in the program. As I dabbed at my eyes, trying to salvage my makeup, I heard voices in the adjoining powder room. The door was slightly ajar, and I recognized them immediately: Ryan and Jason. "You can't keep this going," Ryan was saying, his voice low. "I agreed to play along until the wedding, but now it's done. You need to tell her." I will, Jason replied. "But not today, obviously. And not right away. Abby's been looking forward to this honeymoon for months. That's not fair to either of them. Abby deserves to know who she really married." "Look who's talking about fairness," Jason laughed softly. "You've been with Emily for what, 3 years? And she still has no idea about us." My heart stopped. "Us? That's different." Ryan's voice had an edge now. "I care about Emily. She's been killing herself over this wedding. I didn't want to hurt her." "We all make sacrifices," Jason said. "But after the honeymoon, we need to figure this out." "I meant what I said last night." "I know you did." Ryan's voice softened. "I did too." I must have made a noise because they suddenly went silent. I slipped out quickly, mind racing. Ryan and Jason. My boyfriend and my sister's husband. How long had this been going on? What had they said to each other last night? I moved through the reception on autopilot, smiling mechanically at guests who complimented the beautiful wedding. Several asked if I'd been the planner, and I nodded without elaborating. What was the point of claiming credit now? I spotted Ryan across the room, laughing with a group of Jason's friends. He caught my eye and smiled. raising his champagne glass in a toast. The casual gesture made my stomach turn. How could he stand there, pretending everything was normal? Jess, the photographer and my longtime friend, appeared at my side. Hey, you look like you've seen a ghost. Everything okay? I couldn't form words. Instead, I shook my head slightly. What's wrong? She asked, her voice dropping. Wedding drama? I need air, I managed. She followed me onto the terrace, camera still in hand. Talk to me, Em. The programs don't mention me, I said, knowing it sounded petty given what I'd just discovered. And I think Ryan and Jason are involved. Jess didn't look surprised enough. Oh, honey, you knew. She winced. I suspected. I saw them at the rehearsal dinner last night, out on this very terrace. They looked intimate. Why didn't you tell me? I wasn't sure. And I didn't want to ruin today for you. You've worked so hard. Worked so hard to be erased, I said bitterly. To fund my sister's wedding to a man who's sleeping with my boyfriend. Jess touched my arm. What are you going to do? Before I could answer, Abby appeared at the terrace doors, champagne in hand. She saw us and approached, her expression insincere. Emily, sweetie, she said, I think you should leave early. Jason says he saw you crying in the bathroom. The condescension in her voice was the final straw. I gripped my event binder tightly, feeling something inside me snap cleanly, like a twig underfoot. 6 months of planning, $20,000, and not a single acknowledgement. I smiled and opened the binder, turning to the contracts section. I found the deed to my condo, the one I'd added Abby to when she'd sobbed about needing to build her credit score. With one deliberate motion, I crossed her name out. What are you doing? She hissed, glancing nervously at Jess. Exactly what I should have done years ago, I replied, my voice surprisingly steady. I'm leaving. And you're going to remember this moment when your perfect wedding falls apart in about, I checked my watch, 20 minutes. The string quartet I'd hired began playing off-key, right on schedule. I'd canceled the final payment this morning after seeing the programs. Abby's face paled. What did you do? Nothing yet, I said. But unlike you, I actually pay attention to details. Like how the second half of vendor payments are due at 9 p.m. And how I'm the only one authorized to make them. You wouldn't, she whispered. I already did. I withdrew every authorization an hour ago. Her perfect wedding was balanced on a house of cards that I had carefully constructed and could just as easily demolish. The bar would stop serving in 20 minutes when they realized their final payment hadn't arrived. The venue coordinator would start asking uncomfortable questions about the outstanding balance. The DJ would pack up before the first dance. You can't do this to me, Abby said, her voice rising. It's my wedding day. A wedding I paid for, I replied. A wedding I planned down to the last detail. A wedding where my name doesn't appear once. Is that what this is about? Credit? God, Emily, you're so pathetic. Always desperate for attention. Jess stepped forward. Abby, you might want to lower your voice. I'm still on the clock and my camera is running. Abby shot her a venomous look. This doesn't concern you. Actually, it does, Jess said coolly. Emily hired me. I work for her, not you. I felt a rush of gratitude for my one true ally in this mess. Why are you doing this? Abby demanded, turning back to me. Because you're jealous? Because you can't stand that for once in my life. Something is about me and not you and your perfect career. I laughed, genuinely amused by her distorted version of reality. My perfect career that funded your perfect wedding? The one you couldn't afford on your own? The one your husband apparently doesn't care about enough to stay faithful for even one day? Her face flushed. What are you talking about? I considered telling her everything about Ryan and Jason, about the whispered conversation in the bathroom. But what would be the point? She wouldn't believe me. Or worse, she already knew and didn't care. Ask your husband, I said instead. Ask him what he was doing on this terrace last night. Ask him who he was with. Confusion flashed across her face, quickly replaced by anger. You're making things up because you're bitter. You've always been bitter that Mom and Dad love me more. The words should have hurt, but I felt oddly detached now. Maybe they do. But love doesn't pay bills, Abby. Love doesn't build credit scores or fund honeymoons. I unclipped a manila envelope from my binder and handed it to her. Here's a gift for you. Every receipt. Every bank statement. Every penny I've spent making your dream wedding happen. $20,000 worth of receipts. She stared at the envelope, not taking it. I don't want your money, she said, but her eyes told a different story. Good, because you're not getting it back. I placed the envelope on a nearby table. But when Mom and Dad ask why the caterers are packing up before dinner, you can show them exactly what your sister's contribution was worth to you. Absolutely nothing. I turned to walk away, but Abby grabbed my arm, her nails digging in. You can't leave. You're in charge of everything. Not anymore. I quit. Her face crumpled. Please, I'm sorry about the programs. I'll tell everyone you planned it. I'll announce it right now. It's too late, I said, gently removing her hand. And it was never just about the programs. As if on cue, Ryan appeared, his expression concerned. Everything okay? People are wondering where you both are. I looked at him, really looked at him, and felt nothing but pity. 3 years wasted on someone who couldn't even be honest about who he was. I'm leaving, I told him. Don't follow me. Don't call me. Your things will be on the curb tomorrow. His face paled. Emily, what? Ask Jason, I said, loud enough for Abby to hear. He can explain why I'm upset. I handed my binder to Jess. There's a list of vendor contacts in here. If you want to help them, you can make sure they all get their final payments. But I'm done. She nodded, understanding flickering in her eyes. Go. I'll handle it. As I walked through the reception hall, my mother intercepted me, her expression critical. Emily, where are you going? The cake cutting is in 20 minutes. I'm sure you'll figure it out, Mom. You always do. What's that supposed to mean? She asked, frowning. I paused, considering whether to unload decades of hurt and resentment. But I was tired. So tired of trying to prove myself worthy of their attention. It means I'm going home. Enjoy the wedding. I didn't wait for her response. I walked out the grand doors of the Langham Hotel, past the doorman who nodded respectfully, and into the cool Boston evening. In my car, I opened the glove compartment and pulled out a small black notebook. My emergency contact list for every wedding I'd ever planned. I flipped to the back, where I kept personal notes. A business card was clipped there, Caroline West, event director at the Ritz-Carlton. She'd been trying to recruit me for months, offering a position with their international wedding team. I'd been hesitant to leave Boston, worried about what my family would say, how Ryan would react. Now, there was nothing holding me back. I pulled out my phone and dialed the number. Caroline? It's Emily Parsons. About that position in New York? Is it still available? Her enthusiastic response made me smile for the first time that day. As I drove away from the chaos I'd left behind, I felt lighter than I had in years. The phone began ringing incessantly. Abby, Ryan, my mother, all panicking as the perfect wedding crumbled. I silenced it and tossed it onto the passenger seat. Let them figure it out. After all, they'd made it perfectly clear. This was never my wedding to begin with. 3 months later, I stood in my new Manhattan apartment, unpacking the last of my boxes. The view of Central Park from my window still felt surreal, a daily reminder of how far I'd come. The wedding disaster had made minor waves in Boston's social circle, but I'd been long gone by then. Jess had kept me updated. Abby and my parents had scrambled to pay the vendors, emptying several credit cards in the process. The cake cutting happened an hour late. The bar closed early. The DJ never played the first dance. My family had tried reaching out, first with angry voicemails, then with tearful apologies. I'd listened to none of them. Ryan had shown up at my old apartment the day after the wedding, finding only boxes on the curb and a change lock. According to mutual friends, he and Jason were now openly together, and Abby was filing for annulment. None of it was my problem anymore. My phone chimed with a text from my new colleague. First Central Park wedding this weekend. Ready to show them how it's done? I smiled and sent back a thumbs up. On my desk sat a sleek business card holder, filled with fresh cards that read Emily Parsons, Senior Event Director, Ritz-Carlton, New York. No more invisible contributions. No more thankless sacrifices. No more being the family ATM. This time, my name was printed front and center, exactly where it belonged. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Would you have walked away from a toxic family situation like Emily did, or would you have confronted them differently?